What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Biblical Hitman. It's your host, Steven, and joining me yet again is L.A. Marzulli, folks. He's a filmmaker, he's a researcher, and an author, and this episode is going to be full of information. It's going to be high energy, high octane. I'm very excited to have this gentleman on. He's been in the game for a very long time. He's been an inspiration to many content creators out there, including myself. And so, but folks, if it's your first time you're returning, you want to support the show, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like the show, share it with your friends. You could also check us out on audio platforms as well, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. While you're there, drop a 5-star review, a follow, and click that notification bell. But LA, welcome to the show, man.
Great to be here, Steven. Thanks for having me back on. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Now, for the audience that's not familiar with you, if you wouldn't mind just giving us just a little intro and where they can find your work.
Yeah, just go to lamarzulli.com, lamarzulli.com. There are 34 films and 15 books. So there's a corpus of work. We have 45 minutes together. We'll scratch the surface. I would admonish your followers to, check it out. For less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks, you can download and stream any of our films.
Awesome. I see you have a canvas in the background that matches this one.
Exactly.
Right here. I love it. It's a UFO, folks, sucking up a
hairy man.
Yes, a Sasquatch, an Esau, whatever you want to call it. My buddy Justin, Doc Brown, everyone knows him of my audience, my listeners, but go check out his book and everything. The Epic of Esau. Love that guy. But LA, what do you got for us tonight, man? What's going on?
Well, since the last time we were here, we have a new film out. It's on the Shroud of Turin. The Shroud of Turin is back in the news, interestingly enough. This one is called, where is it? There we go. Holy Shroud, Holy Fire. That's what it looks like.
Okay.
And we basically delve into the veracity of the shroud and how it's not a painting. There's no paint, no dye. No one knows how it was done. There's lots of theories, but no one knows. No one has ever been able to duplicate it in any way. So there's this new guy, I think he's down in Brazil or something, making this big deal about, I've duplicated the shroud. It's not even close. Not even remotely close. Doesn't look anything like it. And it's not a negative image. In other words, when you look at the shroud, this is what you see. It's a negative image. When you take a photograph, 1898 Segunda Pia, this is what he saw. How is that possible? How is that possible?
Yeah, it's a wild concept, the Shroud of Turin, man. And I know you've been covering it lately. And I'm glad you came into the show opening up with that, because that is what I wanted to talk about today. So I'm really excited for this.
Great. Well, the shroud is a piece of linen cloth. It's about 3.5 feet wide, 14 feet long. It bears the frontal and the dorsal image of a crucified man. The man has been heavily scourged. That's what it looks like. Look at the scourging. Brutal.
Right.
Barbaric. And it remained hidden from the world until 1898, when Segunda Pia took the first picture of it. And when he took the picture, he's like got the glass plate like this, and he's like, here's the glass plate, and it's a negative. So the glass plate's big. It's about this big, and it's of the headshot. It's a close-up of the head. So he's in his dark room, not like we have today with the iPhone instant gratification. He's got his, developing solution. He's developing this, and he expects to see a negative. Are you ready? This is what he sees.
Wow.
And that's crazy. And he realizes that's the face. I'm the first person to see what he looked like in 2,000 years. So, in my opinion, the Shroud of Turin is forensic evidence of the greatest event in all of human history, the resurrection of the fully God, fully man, Jesus of Nazareth. And I mean, there it is. I mean, forensically, it is astounding, because it shows discrepancies. It's not a crown of thorn. Let me use this one. It's not a crown of thorn, not a crown of thorns. There we go. It's a helmet. And you can see these little white marks. That's the blood. So they took the thorns, and it was like a cap, and they pounded it into his head. Can you imagine? Just that pain alone is excruciating. When you look at where the nails are, the nails come through the back of the wrist. And the reason for that is, and this is another reason, up till that point in time, most icons, most paintings, most artwork showed the nail going right through the palm like this, right in the palm of the hands. But that's not what the shroud shows. The shroud shows the angle like this coming the back of the wrist. It comes out here. Because if you go in the palm, it'll just tear right through. But if you come in an angle and come on the back of the wrist up like this, it'll hold you.
Yeah, it fits right in that ulna radial area.
Right.
Yeah.
That must have been unbelievable. And every time you flinch, all those nerves are just, so he's got the nerves on his head, the nerves in his arms, and and he's whipped within an inch of his life. I mean, it's utterly barbaric in every sense of the word. And the shroud depicts this with great forensic detail. So how would no one ever answers this. How does a 15th century or 13th or 14th century, a medieval artist, know about photography, right? So when he puts this image on, he knows, well, guess what? 400 or 500 years from now, they're going to photograph it and they're going to see this. How would he even know that? I mean, the whole argument against the shroud just collapses of its own weight. It just falls of its own weight. And the naysayers are always yelling and screaming. Why? Because they don't want it to be true. Why don't they want it to be true? Because it points back to the resurrection. Why don't they like the resurrection? Because it points back to a supernatural God. Why do they dislike a supernatural God? Because just maybe what was written will come to pass. What was unforetold is unfolding, that he is coming back, probably in our lifetime, maybe sooner than any of us think. And they really don't want that because they don't want to admit their own sin. And then you need a redeemer. That's what's the crux of the matter, really. It comes down to that. That's why they wail. Why do rage?
Yeah, the secular community, they lack accountability, right? Because they don't want to be accountable for their actions, their sins, and they don't want to understand or give benefit to the biblical narrative because we're all dirty then, right? Like we all got dirt on us, where we do need a savior. And really a big thing with the secular community as well is they'll believe in one miracle. They will, but that's the Big Bang. And that's it.
That's it. Yeah. Somehow everything just started by itself, and no one knows where or how or anything else. I mean, the whole thing. I mean, I've sat down with some of these people, and it's hilarious. When you just start going through the human body. So let me get this straight: what came first, the chicken or the egg? So unless a female reproduction system is there, how are we going to have any more of us? Any more humans? And they just add, billions of years. Oh, it's billions of years old. Oh my God. Well, how do you know that? You don't know. Just making this stuff up. They just make it up as they go along. It's just like with the Armor Trail of the Nephilim. Oh, well, the Shawnee Native Americans built all the mounds. They just forgot that they had done so. So that's one of the most racist statements I have ever heard. Now I'm hopping over, but it's all related. It's all supernatural. The Shawnee did not build the mounds. There's advanced geometry. There's spherical trigonometry, which links it to other sites like America Stonehenge. We don't have time to get into all that. That's a whole other eight-part series of films. But the secular world dislikes the supernatural, and they scoff at it, and they cling tenaciously to their Darwinian paradigm. The neo-Darwinists are looking at the Darwinian paradigm and going, this isn't going to work. Why do they say that? Because when Darwin it came up with his theory of evolution, he didn't know about DNA. He didn't know about the complexity of a deoxyribonucleic double helix of life, spiral of life, DNA, molecular structure. He didn't know about that. So Watson and Crick discover it, but it's been there all the time. They didn't discover anything. They just, oh, wow, look at this. They found it. And the DNA molecular structure is the building blocks of all life on this planet. And Watson and Crick knew, especially Crick. Crick knew that this isn't going to fly because this just didn't happen by chance. Just didn't happen by chance. And so he was a vexed man, and he began to go, well, where do we come from? The age-old question. The Bible has all that information there. It's all there if you're willing to spend the time to unpack it. Most people are not. And then there's a thread of prophecy. And unfortunately, most churches push away from prophecy. They won't even look at it. And thus, the people are ignorant. And because of their ignorance, they have no idea where we are in the prophetic time clock. And then millennialism, which is basically the predominant position that churches hold on a global level, and that means there is no literal millennial. Means no millennium. So Jesus ain't coming back. There is no 1,000-year reign from Jerusalem. It's the most hopeless position. Look, he's coming back. I think it's sooner than any of us think.
Yeah, and I think I don't think the elites have, maybe they are thinking of this concept that, a cataclysm, or because I don't really think they want to have that perspective that Jesus Christ is coming back. Because when you look at what they're doing, they're building underground bunkers, right? Spending a lot of money on this. There's a lot of alien propaganda. It seems like there's possibly that $21 trillion that has been misplaced throughout the financial system of America for years now. What did they do with that money? Are they building underground bunkers, right? Because when we look at Revelation,
Yeah.
We see that
Right.
I think it's Revelation 6, right? 15 or 16. But it
You
talks
look
about
it
that
up.
they try to hide themselves
Right.
in the mountains.
Right. Yeah. And that's what we're looking at is a deliberate running from the inevitable, because he is coming back. Because what was written will come to pass. What was foretold is unfolding. It's a saying I came up with years ago. So circling back to the shroud, it's forensic evidence of the greatest event. Because he's in this picture, he is dead. He is not risen yet, but he's in the act of just about to rise from the dead. And what we do, and the skeptics never talk about this, we link the Shroud of Turin to the Sedarium of Oviedo. So the Sudarium is a piece of cloth about 4 feet long, about 18 inches to 2 feet wide, and it wrapped the head. When they took Jesus off the cross, okay, they wrapped the head out of respect for the dead. That is the napkin that is folded up and placed next to the body in the tomb. The Sedarium of Oviedo has been in Spain, in Oviedo, Spain, since the 7th century. So until the modernity, where we've got, the amazing scientific breakthroughs, you were not able to, you could look at the Sedarium, it's just this bloody mess. But now, because of computer analysis, we know that there's well over 100 points of congruency between the Sedarium of Oviedo and the man on the shroud. Over 100. So no one ever deals with that, because that's hard science. In other words, that face cloth, which has been in Spain since the 7th century, was on the man of the shroud. There's no doubt about it. It's also the same blood type, AB. So, I think the lady protests a little too much here. No one ever talks about that. The carbon-14 dating, and we show this in the film, was proven to be skewed on every level. And yet, Google and Wikipedia, and when you Google it, is the Shroud of Turin real or fake? They go right to the carbon-14 dating. And they never say, excuse me, and we show this in the film. So there's this man and a woman. The man is named Joe Marino, sorry, Joe Marino, and he's a monk in a monastery. And he is obsessed with the shroud. And the carbon-14 dating comes back, it's a medieval forgery. And everybody goes, I did the same thing. I'm an amateur synodologist. I've been studying the shroud for 45 years. Not like Joe Marino. I've never written books on it, but we produced a film on it, Holy Shroud, Holy Fire. I mean, that's got to count for something, right? So I've been a student of this for decades. So Joe Marino, the monk, is in the monastery, and he's taken aback by the fact that it comes back a 15th century or medieval forgery. So he's upset. So he goes online, and there's like a shroud, like what's the word I'm looking for? A group of people that get together online, a little community. And he meets this woman, Sue, and they strike up a friendship, and they're texting and, and probably FaceTiming and who knows what else. Well, one thing leads to another, and they fall in love and realize that they can't live without each other. So Joe Marino leaves the monastery and marries Sue. And they publish a paper, which was then read at the Shroud of Turin Research Project. And Barry Schwartz, who's passed away, said, "Can I publish this?" And he does. So what they posited, what they presented in their paper, was that the sample from the shroud came from one part. Originally, and you just don't go in there, I can take some samples from the shroud so we can see 14 data. You don't do that. The protocols were set up at least a year or two ahead of time. They were supposed to take 3 different samples from the shroud. They didn't do that. They took one sample right down in here from the corner of the shroud. And so Sue and Joe, they're now married, they write this paper. And they put forth the idea that that sample that they took was a reweave job. Now, they don't have samples out, but Ray Reyes does. And Ray Reyes was on the Shroud of Turin research project team. He's one of the original STURT members. And Ray has samples from that corner. It's called the Reyes sample, which is right next to the C14 sample. So he goes, well, I can disprove this in a minute. And he's the only person on the planet who could do this, because he's got the Reyes sample right next to the place where they took the C14. And he realizes, oh my gosh, there's cotton fibers that are rewoven with the linen. It's a patch job. And then later on, he's able to get the fibers from the actual sample that they did with C14, same thing. It's a patch job, which skews the dating, because the fire happened and then the poor Sisters of Clare went in and did patchwork. And so we've got the shroud and we've got the Sudarium. And we know from the science that's been done that there's over 100 points of congruency between the Sedarium of Oviedo, which has been in Spain, Oviedo, Spain, since the 7th century. That blows the whole thing out. No one ever talks about that. Not a peep, because that throws the monkey wrench into the whole deal. Oh, it's a medieval forgery, blah, blah, blah. There's no paint. There's no ink. There's no dye. There's nothing on the shroud. In fact, the shroud's image is on the top, very, very faint, on the very top surface of the shroud itself, which begs the question, well, how the heck did that happen? And they don't know. It's not a burn, because when you do UV light behind it, it doesn't fluoresce. Barry Schwartz, they had the whole shroud up like this, and he backlit it. And the blood and the patches and everything else, it's all there. But the image doesn't fluoresce. What are we looking at here, Stephen? What are we looking at?
Right. This is wild, man. I think there is something to all of this. Again, I think with time, just more scientific studies, more evidence will start to, grow out of the ground, right? For the support of this thing. But it's like what you say, right? It's this life's a big chess game. There's always going to be this constant war over
until he comes back and he lands on the Mount of Olives, and the Mount of Olives splits in two, and all the Jews who were there look on him whom they had pierced and mourn for him as an only son. I want a front row seat for that, because it's going to be a reconciliation, like a cosmic reconciliation, where finally the one who they called Yeshu instead of Yeshua, which means may his name be blotted out forever, they will realize, and that's why they mourn as for an only son. It's a national day of mourning. And we are with him on flying white horses, because we just flew down from the third heaven. How does that work? We're on
Mhm.
flying white horses. There's what, 8 billion people on the planet now? You can half those people are gone, but there's still 4 billion people on the planet. And the Antichrist and his army has just been wiped out. And it's not because we're fighting like we're battling orcs. That's not what it is, in my opinion. Out of his mouth comes a sharp sword with which to strike the nations. Okay? So let me see if I can grasp this and get it to me. He is the image of the unseen God, the firstborn of creation. This is Colossians. Firstborn of creation, for by him all things were created, in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones, dominions, rulers, or authority. All things were created by him. And I just lost it. All things were created by him, and he holds all things together.
Mhm.
That sword, in my opinion, when he speaks, all he does is he just stops holding everybody together, and everyone just bleeds out, literally. And that's why the blood is up to the horse's bridle, not because we're there, praise the Lord. We're not doing that. We're watching, and they just melt. It's like the Wicked Witch of the West. I'm melting.
Right,
They just,
right.
they just, they just bleed out. And we all see this. So now you got 4 billion people who are watching this stuff because what are you going to tell me? The satellite network goes down? No. This is where it says every eye will see him. Oh, that's preposterous. So, Well, how else are you going to do that? Is he going to fly around, make multiple trips around the earth? Come on.
Right.
We're all connected like this. That's not going down. That's not going anywhere. Every eye sees him. The armies are there. And then, this is conjecture on my part, he dispatches us because we're on flying white horses. He dispatches us globally, and that's how we instantly set up the kingdom. You,
Mhm.
Stephen, go to Calcutta. Marzulli, go to go to Kathmandu. Whatever, right? And
Yeah.
and you, Stephen, go over to Hawaii, and because you got 4 billion people who have no idea what just happened. Who is this guy? Is that Jesus? He's on a white horse. Who are these people with him? Are they aliens? I mean, the questions are, and we set up the kingdom that day. There's no time. We are dispatched and instantly. All those the armies of heaven on white horses. We are dispatched. Guess what? What do? When Jesus tells us that we'll do works greater than his. I love some of these people. Lord, in your name we declare, we proclaim the 7 mountains. We're going to take back art, and we're going to take back movies, and the school system, and this, and we're going to get everything ready for your kingdom. Now, people don't sound like that. Forgive me, but that's just nonsense. That's us doing it. Excuse me, we fail. The church fails. Everything fails. It's all him. We're not going to get anything ready for him other than maybe me and you get ourselves ready for him in our heart. But we're not going to you're not going to take this thing back. You can jump up and down, you can tap dance, you can blow into a microphone till the cows come home and tell everybody about the 7 mountain thing that's going to happen. It ain't ever going to happen. You can call me negative, but this thing's been around now for at least 10 years, and it's gotten a lot worse. In fact, worser should be a word in the dictionary because worser is a great word. It has gotten worser. And we're at
Yeah.
the point with AI where you can't fix it anymore. So, and it's arrogant to think that we are going to present the kingdom of Jesus. Excuse me, it's one of the most arrogant statements. And I know I'm bagging on these guys. And look, I'm all for go, write a book, create a film, be involved. I'm not saying jump back and do nothing, but don't think for a second that we're going to take this over. Everything has gotten worse and worse and worse in the last 25 years. And there's no doubt about it. And with the advent of AI, sayonara, baby. I mean,
I
it's
know.
you
I
don't
know.
know what's real and what's fabricated anymore.
Yeah,
So he
yeah,
good.
AI is the kill shot, right?
The AI is
It's
I
it's
agree.
it's it's the kill shot, and especially with it starting to kind of grow towards AGI, we don't even know really what to expect when it gets to ASI, right? Artificial super intelligence. But how I see artificial intelligence is I see it as a piece of creation. Man created it, but it's in the state where it's like when we have kids and new life is created, right? And we have an offspring that offspring, we take care of it, we feed it, we nurture it, and it starts to grow up and it starts to develop. And that's how see AI, right? And if the Antichrist is to be this typology of a counterfeiting, entity, right? Kind of counterfeits everything God does. We know that Christ was born into the flesh and he grew up, right? And there was a development stage that he had to go through, right? Especially with John the Baptist and all this other kind of stuff that plays into it, where you could get it in the Gospels. But AI is going through the same thing. And I think when it reaches that point of sentience, sorry, or when it reaches that point of singularity, to me, that's when the teenager grows up and they know that they don't want their parents anymore. They don't need to listen to them, and they walk out of the house. There's there's a disconnect there, and if AI does get to that, which I know it's going to get
Oh,
to
it's
that.
going to. There's no holding this thing back. I presented I'll get back at the Shroud in just a second. I presented a clip which is now over 2 years old at a Prophecy Watchers conference, and I will be speaking in October at the Prophecy Watchers conference. And I may throw this clip up again just to show people. And it's just this woman, and she's speaking, and she's pretty. She's about 33, 32, something like that. Very articulate, and it has nothing to do with the Nephilim or flying saucers or UFOs. So people are going like, why is LI showing us this? I don't get it. So I run the clip for about a minute and a half, and then I just stop it. And I go, guess what? What you saw was 100% fabricated. This woman isn't real. You just saw AI and you didn't know. And that's 2 years ago. And we're at the point where you can't tell what reality is from fabrication. He has to come back because you can't be accountable for this. You can't. How can you hold anybody accountable to anything? Because you don't know what you're looking at. Anybody can say anything. They can create an AI of you or me and have us say the most foul things you can put. They're already doing it with the kids in junior high school, right? Creating AI versions of some girl and compromising positions sexually with no clothes on, which completely destroys her life because it looks exactly like her. And they said, oh, isn't that funny? It's the most evil thing. How can you possibly do that to another human being? And this is where we are. And it's only going to get worse, Stephen. It's only
Mhm.
going to get worse.
It's how the Bible says in the latter days, the
Wax
love
worse
of
and
many will grow cold,
real
right?
close
So
where we are.
yeah,
So
I
let's go
believe
to
it.
the Holy Fire. So you've got this building in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. I had a chance to go there in 2019. I didn't go. Just a Catholic. Ignorance and arrogance right here. Ignorance and arrogance, deadly combination. I thought I knew, but I had no clue. And then I did a bunch of research on it. I went, stupid me. If we ever get back there and the way things are going, we probably never will. I'm not going to bring a team or a tour into a war zone. I'm just not going to do it. Sorry, not going to happen. So there's a building there. It's an unbelievable church, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, there's another building inside of it. It's called the Edicule. And the Edicule surrounds what was the tomb. Now, the topography has all changed over the thousands of years. So let me explain. Gregory of Nyssa stated in his writing about the 4th or 5th century, maybe a little bit later, maybe the 7th century. Gregory of Nyssa said that Peter the Apostle saw the holy fire over the tomb. He saw it. So in AD 70, the Romans come in and destroy the temple, completely destroy the temple. 1 million Jews are slaughtered, the rest are carted off. The rest, some of the Jews are just scattered out through what is now the Middle East. They've always been there for 2,000 years. Then you get the Bar Kokhba revolt of AD 30. Okay? So the Romans come down and quash that, and they have had it up to here with these pesky Jews. Every Jew is expelled from Jerusalem. No Jew is allowed in Jerusalem under the penalty of death. They erect the temple of Jupiter on the Temple Mount. Now, they've already leveled it in AD 70, but they erect the temple of Jupiter on the Temple Mount. And then they erect the temple of Venus over the site of the crucifixion and the resurrection, because the crucifixion is here and then the tomb is here. It's not like, it's not the garden tomb, in my opinion. The garden tomb is an evangelical construct from the 19th century.
Mm-hmm.
What people don't understand, we should talk about this in the film. There's a whole series of those tombs all in that cliffside. It's very nice. And there's right next to it, there's like a place of the skull and all this stuff. But no, we're not buying that. And the Mount of Olives, I don't believe that either. But the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, why did they build the Temple of Venus on the site? Because all the locals knew where the tomb in Golgotha was. They had already been doing pilgrimages. So, the Romans come in, well, we're not doing that anymore. Bam, they desecrate the site. So 300 years go by. It's now the 4th century, 300 years. Constantine becomes emperor. His mother Helen comes down to Jerusalem on a pilgrimage. Okay, where is everything? There's the Temple Mount. That's still intact. Well, where was Golgotha and the crucifixion? All the locals know. All the locals know. Right there. Now, how do I know that? I live in the Santa Monica Mountains. Okay? And if you came up here and you said, L.A., where's the cave that they discovered in the early part of the 20th century with all the Indian artifacts? Isn't it up by the lake? Oh, yeah, it's up by the lake over there. It's all filled in now. How do I know that? Local knowledge. I've been up here for 50 years. It's local knowledge. All the locals who are living in Jerusalem, see that Temple of Venus? That's where it is. So Helen goes in, they deconstruct everything. Sure enough, they find Golgotha. They find the rock that's been split in half from the earthquake. They find the tomb. They find the slab. And at this moment is when the holy fire begins to happen. On that slab of stone, which is the tomb, there's this on Resurrection Saturday, the day before we celebrate him going up, right? There's this blue flame which undulates over the slab, and then a column comes up like this, and it just sits there, and people see it, and then people would light candles from it. And now, 1,700 years later, it's celebrated, and the priest or the Orthodox patriarch goes in, Greek Orthodox, and the tomb is sealed and all this stuff. Catholics maintain, the guy's got a lighter. This is all magic. But you can take the holy fire. We show this in the film, and you can go like this right under your beard. It's a cold flame. It's cold plasma, like this. One woman is going like this under her arm. Nothing's happening.
Really?
So, yeah. And we show this in the film. We show it you need to watch the film, Stephen. So the fire has manifested. And it got to the point where sometimes, you go back, and by the way, there's a great book by Harris Skarlakidis, and he documents from all these ancient libraries and ancient scrolls and scripts, all these people that saw the holy fire, from Muslim, like Saladin, who was like a great warrior of Islam. He saw the holy fire. People have seen it, and there's all these accounts. It used to come in and light up all the lamps, just light up the lamps. And now it appears in the edicule and comes out. So what are we looking at? So people go, well, let me ask you this. So when Abraham cuts the covenant with God, and they take the carcasses and they split them in two, and they make a pathway, Abraham's put to sleep. But what does he see? What goes through the covenant? A flaming torch. When Moses sees the bush that burns but doesn't burn, what is he seeing? When the pillar of fire leads the Israelites for 40 years, what's that?
That's a good point.
When the apostles received the Holy Spirit, and above their heads appears what? Tongues of flame. I'm not making this stuff up. Now, you can scoff at it all you want. I really don't care. I've done the work. Here's the film. My business partner and I, Gil Zimmerman, we spent a year on this baby, a year on this film. I believe the Shroud of Turin I call it God's calling card. It's forensic evidence of the greatest event in history, the resurrection of the God-man. I believe the holy fire is the mechanism which created the image on the shroud. I believe the body was levitated, that space and time as we know it stopped, completely stopped, and the body just disintegrated in billions of points, trillions of points of light. and created that image on the shroud. Because what you see here, he's dead. He's not alive. He's not. This is the moment of the resurrection, right before the moment. This is it. Take a picture, because and the next moment, the body completely dematerializes, and what you're looking at is what's about to happen. He's about to dematerialize and resurrect. And what people don't understand is, the Gospels tell us, the epistles tell us, he's the firstborn of the dead. It's exactly what he is. He's preeminent in all things. He's preeminent in all things. For in him the fullness of God was pleased to dwell, and through him to reconcile all of us, by the blood of his cross. I mean, there it is. He's the prototype of the rapture of the church.
Right.
He's the prototype of the rapture of a church. And I just think I call it God's calling card. And I want to just point something out. When I was doing this film, look at the scourge marks. Look at the brutality of the scourge marks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all very interesting. If you had to, if you had a few sentences to try and convince someone that, that this is pretty valid, I mean, what would you say?
I would say go spend an hour on shroud.com. And if you're watching this and you're calling me all sorts of names and you're throwing things at your computer or your iPhone, and spend an hour on shroud.com before you write me a nasty email, because I've done the work. Gil Zimmerman and I and Joe Marino and Russ Braille and all the people that we have in the film and interview, we're not making this stuff up. Show us how it was done. And no one can. Nobody can. Because even in the 21st century, they can't duplicate it at all. And this guy down in Brazil who's claiming now he's the latest in a long series of people calling the Shroud, a fake or a forgery. His work doesn't look anything like the Shroud. Nothing at all. Not even remotely close. And he makes, his image doesn't look like this. And then when you take a picture, you get this. How was that done? How was that? Who knew about photography? Nobody knew. Nobody knew. And by the way, the shroud is very faint. You can see it. And it's disappearing. Every year it grows a little fainter, which makes me think that, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, this is like the chess move, on God's side, right?
Pretty much.
Where when technology is advancing and more scientific advancements are being revealed in the world that can help prove certain things, we're seeing that kind of take place with this, you know.
Yeah, we are. And by the way, the carbon-14 dating puts it back, to 2,000 years. The looking at the herringbone weave and the textile, and there's no other artifact like it. I mean, if this was so easy to do, why can't they duplicate it? They can't. Not even close. And the pollen alone shows the whole. It goes all through. But if you work back, it's through Europe, then Turkey, then down to the Middle East. And certain pollen only grows in and around Jerusalem. That's it. So
Interesting.
a forger's gonna take a shroud and trek it all, down, take it down to Jerusalem and sprinkle some pollen on it, because he knows in the 20th century there's going to be botanists and chemists who can look at the pollen and go, aha, it was in Jerusalem. See? I mean, it's just, you got to spend an hour on shroud.com. Spend an hour there before you write me. Do your homework. Watch the film. And somehow come to a conclusion how the Sedarium of Oviedo fits over the shroud. How does that work? And of course, people can't. But we're running out of time. lamarzulli.com, lamarzulli.com. Do your homework. Do your homework. And avail yourself of the film, which in our opinion shows a relationship between the Shroud of Turin, the Sudarium of Oviedo, and the Holy Fire, which has appeared for the last 1,300 years in Jerusalem.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you so much, LA, man. Every
Thank
time we have
you.
you on, it's a great time. You're a wealth of information, and you've been researching so long in your life, and it seems like it's never going to stop for you. So keep going, man. Keep pushing and keep doing the work for the Lord, man.
Amen.
But folks, if you've been with us this long, we appreciate you. We love you. And you want to support the show, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like the show, share it with your friends. Head on over to LA's channel as well. Everything will be linked in the description below that we've discussed, in this episode today. So, but LA, thank you so much, man. And God bless you.
God bless you.